with demand expected to come back, the question remains, does this mean the economy is back on track?
Companies now, after experimenting with offshore in places like India, Philippines, and Poland, want to bring those jobs back.
We invest in the U.S. We're the biggest exporter in the country. In the cycle we're in right now, we're creating jobs.
From Radio America, it's Neil Asbury's Made in America, the show that explores American industry, large and small, and promotes American-made products everywhere. Put Neil Asbury's Made in America to work for you.
Very big welcome to you today. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Rich, we got an incredible show today. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things. But we're not going to get into this right now, but, in just a moment we will. And that's the whole idea of politicizing businesses. I mean, this seems to be in this hyper-cultural war that we have going on right now. I mean, it was In-N-Out Burgers, and it was just recently.
Well, it was
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A was the first one.
And it's Nike, and, everybody right now is so hyper-partisan that if a company does something or makes a contribution or seems to come out on one side or the other, then all of a sudden there's this massive uproar. I mean, it's very difficult as an entrepreneur myself in selling consumer products and manufacturing consumer products. What you say, I mean, I guess could have ramifications. But, can't we all just get along? Can't we all just have an opinion? And even if we disagree, it's not going to mean that we're going to have to take down the business because of it.
Well, that's sort of like an L.A. moment, isn't it? Can't we just all get along?
Yeah.
I remember that from a long time ago. But, no, we're in a very, very strange place right now. And if you think about it across the board, whether you go to a sports game, there's a politicalization going on. Whether you buy sneakers now, it's a politicalization.
You'll watch a late night comedy, or
you can't. You can't watch it. No. It's too serious now. It's all political.
You watch the Oscars. You watch any of that. And by the way, Americans are turning off, a lot.
That's the point.
That's the point. The Late Show. What is it? It's all down right now.
Their numbers are bad,
way down.
Because you know what? It's not fun anymore.
It's not fun.
I don't want to be beaten up at 11:30 at night before I shut my eyes. What happened
to Johnny Carson?
He's dead.
Yeah, he is. But his way of doing things should live on.
Right.
Or even Jay Leno. I mean, he can make jokes on both sides. I still don't know, what side of the political spectrum he came down on. But it doesn't matter. I don't want to know.
No. Well, now even Levi Jeans just the other day came out with something, and they're very concerned about the politicalization of what's going on, and now people are saying I'm not buying Levi Jeans anymore. So I mean,
Starbucks,
good Lord,
and who are we going to boycott next? Anyway, I mean, we should probably get an opinion on this from the U.S. Department of U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Who's going to be on with us right now? We're very pleased to have Glenn Spencer, who is Senior Vice President for Employment Policy at the very, very great organization just across the street, or across the park, I should say, from the White House, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Glenn, welcome to Made in America.
Well, thank you. Happy to be with you guys.
So before we get into the Office of Compliance, which is very fascinating, actually, because as an entrepreneur, I'll tell you my experience with the Obama administration in compliance was not very fun. But tell us, what do you think about this politicizing businesses, because they may have an approach that, some part of their customer base may not appreciate politically? I mean, should we go there?
Well, I think businesses exist to serve their customers, and it's unfortunate that in the process of doing so, some of these issues come up. Look, our member companies, they want to sell products, they want to make money, and serve their communities at the same time.
So yeah, let's leave politics out of it. I mean, let's have some areas of our lives that the cultural wars don't have to rage on. I don't know if we're going to get there anytime soon, but we could all dream, right? So look, Glenn, I'm an entrepreneur, manufacturer, and this is the Department of Energy, actually, under the Obama administration, and they kept coming out with these regulations, and it was all these gotchas. It would be like this letter would show up, a registered mail from the U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. Department of Energy in this particular case, and say, oh, we're out of compliance, and they bought a product of ours, and they've tested it, and they found that we didn't meet the latest energy standard, and here's a $75,000 fine, and if you don't take care of it right away, we're going to multiply that. And, and then I say, oh, well, can you meet with me? Let's at least talk about it. This has never happened before. Okay, we'll meet with you. And, I go up to Washington, and, here's this room of stone-faced administration officials. And I'm saying, look, as an entrepreneur, I'm trying to hire people and create jobs. I'm an American factory. Why are you doing this to me? Why don't you just give me a warning, and then, I'll take care of it, or at least, just don't hit me right away with this big fine. I can't afford it. Oh, it's okay. Well, that's nice. They all smiled and said, well, tough luck. Pay us the money, and you got 30 days to do it. So, I mean, it was terrible. It was terrible. And now it looks like the Trump administration, at least with the Department of Labor, is taking a different tack. And they're saying, let us try to help you understand these laws. Let us help you understand so you can comply with them instead of just coming out there and trying to hit you over the head. So explain what's going on here.
Well, I think you've alluded to something pretty important here, which is that a lot of these federal statutes are pretty hard to understand, right? That they're written in legalese for small business owners, even for big businesses. Sometimes it's pretty difficult to understand exactly what the intent of the statute is, exactly how you're supposed to comply with the statute. And so what the Department of Labor, at least, has done is to launch this new Office of Compliance Initiatives. So the idea behind it is, look, the department exists for the purpose of enforcement of the laws, right? Let's not kid or joke, or what's the expression I'm looking for here? Let's not beat around the bush for that, right? The department does have to enforce specific statutes. But in the process of doing that, the most effective way to make sure that happens is to help employers to understand how they're supposed to apply the various statutes and regulations that the department enforces. So, for example, wage and hour law, right? It's a very complicated subject for a lot of businesses to understand and apply. So the department can help with outreach to make sure that employers know how to do that, right? So one of the things that the department has been doing recently, in addition to this office, is issuing opinion letters. So if you've got a specific question as to how the Fair Labor Standards Act might apply to your business, you can write the department and ask them, and rather than immediately come out and try and crack you over the head, as you put it, with enforcement, they will actually respond to you and say, hey, here's in your unique circumstance, here's how the law applies, here's how you ought to put this into effect at your company. So it's really an approach that says to employers, hey, you're partners in this, you're part of helping us enforce the law and make sure the law is applied, so we're going to work with you to make sure that happens.
Well, that's probably a good idea, isn't it? I mean, wouldn't it be a great idea to learn this before you get involved and go down a road that's going to cost you a whole lot of money? And it could actually eliminate jobs for you because you have now fines and you're confused and have to hire specialists to do this. I think it's a great idea, Neal.
And then, of course, all the overtime laws and, what I'd like them to help us with is, who's legal and who's illegal, I mean, you're trying to hire people and you're trying to follow the law. But, it's very complicated. It really is. I mean, has there been any attempt to help businesses try to, make the right hiring decisions?
Yeah, sure. And one of the things that's exciting about the Office of Compliance Initiatives is that it's not only an external program, right? So it's not only reaching out to employers to help them, but it's also internal. So this office is tasked with making sure that all the various components of the Department of Labor, whether it's reviewing visas, whether it's looking at wage and hour issues, whether it's looking at OSHA workplace safety issues, that all of the various parts of the department are using compliance assistance as well, that they are emphasizing that as part of their enforcement mission. So it's not just the, gotcha.
Yeah, you just mentioned OSHA. Let me tell you, those folks, I have 5 factories here in the U.S., and I mean, they just kind of show up and, you're just there holding your breath. I mean, what are you going to find now? What are you going to find? And, okay, I know safety, we all want safety and we want to do that and we want to be good at it, but come and help us, but the attitude is they're there to catch you.
Yeah.
They're looking for that gotcha moment.
Exactly.
They're looking for the gotcha moment. We're not partnering. Partner. If you want to make it a safer workplace, partner with us. We want to make it a safer workplace. But don't come over here and just beat us over the head because they're out there to find a gotcha moment. And that's the attitude of these people.
That's right, and I think there's really 2 different approaches here. So the approach you're describing was more the approach of the Obama administration, where there was an effort to shame employers, right? So, but they issue a citation before that was even adjudicated. They'd put out press releases denouncing the employer. They'd run all kinds of media around it in an effort to really hold that employer up as a bad example, right? And the view seemed to be that all employers were bad actors. The new administration has a very different approach, and as we've already described, it's really to help employers understand how to comply with the law and what the law means for their unique business and the specific circumstances of that business. Now, let's be clear, that is not a license to flout the law, right? There are folks who try to pretend that compliance assistance really means voluntary compliance, and that's not true. So employers shouldn't be under the illusion that with a compliance assistance initiative, they're free to ignore the law if they want. That's not the case at all. But what this is about is making sure that they get the help and the outreach and the understanding that they need to really apply the law effectively in their workplace.
Thanks, Glenn. Really appreciate you on the show. Glenn Spencer, Senior Vice President at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Please come back. Join us again.
I'll be happy to do that anytime. Thanks, guys.
Coming up, Dr. Rothman and I are going to talk about the politicalization of business. Should we be doing that?
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, I want to follow up on this, the culture wars in our country and, if a company comes out and kind of promotes, something that they may believe in, and then it's all of a sudden, well, let's boycott that product and, In-N-Out Burger, by the way, a really great hamburger chain.
Everyone says they're amazingly good hamburgers.
Really good.
I've never had one.
And Chick-fil-A, which, by the way, I go probably twice a week.
They're right here.
They're everywhere.
No, they're everywhere. And you know what? They're always crowded.
They're always
crowded.
And let me tell you, if school is out, oh my goodness, you want to stay away from that because it's just like it's a madhouse there. I mean, it's incredible. Remember about them? I mean, there was that big Democrat boycott of Chick-fil-A, and then
backfired.
It backfired.
Yeah.
But then to be fair, on the other side, you have Nike, came out and, hey, look, I don't agree with what they're doing. I think it's in very poor taste. But I mean, they have the right to do whatever they want to do, right? Just like In-N-Out Burger has the right to do what they want to do. Do we have to politicize everything all the time and get in an uproar? I mean, where does it stop?
Well, that's the problem, and I think we're on a train right now. By the way, the folks at Nike should really go home tonight and download Elizabethtown, the film that talks about this guy that designs a sneaker for a company like Nike. It's a total bust, and they lose billions of dollars because of this guy's sneaker that he designed that nobody wanted. And all of a sudden, the company makes no money. And it's a really interesting film because the unintended consequences of what they did killed the company. And I think Nike made a mistake with this. I really do. I'm very, very disappointed. But I'm disappointed in everything right now because I don't like the idea that before I watch something on television, it's like, well, there's a Sean Penn movie. Like, I'm not watching it. Like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, one of my favorite films for years. I have trouble watching Sean Penn because he's such a jerk politically, and it bothers the heck out of me. I can't watch Fonda. I can't watch, both the brother and sister, Jane and Peter. I can't do it. It makes me crazy. If I watch a football game and they start, taking a kneeling, they're kneeling for the anthem, I go nuts because my father risked his life and my wife's father won 2 Purple Hearts in the Philippines. And I just can't handle that anymore. And it bothers me that, blue jeans, Levi's, you've got to think about Levi's now, or whatever the scenario is. And it's upsetting me. And I think we've gone down this incredibly ugly, miserable road where everything is now politics. Everything is politics. As you so aptly pointed out in the beginning of the show, you watch any of the late night shows at 11:30 at night or 11 o'clock at night across the cable spectrum, and it's all politics. If you watch HBO, it's all politics. It just makes me insane. But I think what we're doing really fits into this concept that Saul Alinsky said a long, long time ago, back in the 70s, and Rules for Radicals. overload the system, divide the system, make everything crazy. It comes apart, and it gives the progressives a chance to come in. I think that's the game that we're playing right now. Just saying.
Wow. Yeah.
I want everyone to go out there and read Rules for Radicals. Look it up on the internet.
Thanks for
just thought I'd say
that out.
Yeah.
Hey, but by the way, the U.S. economy grew by 4.2% in the second quarter.
Let's impeach the guy. I want to impeach the guy, right? What do you want to do? I want to impeach the guy. Listen to all these people. Oh, no, we're going to get elected. We're going to get the House. We're going to impeach him. Well, wait a minute. You just pointed out 4.2%. Growth in the last quarter. I mean, come on. The economy roaring, unemployment down to under 4%. It's going to be 3.7. They're saying that the next GDP for the next quarter, the feds are saying maybe we could hit 4.6%. Doing pretty good. Unemployment for blacks, the lowest since they counted the numbers. Unemployment for Hispanics, lowest since they counted the numbers. Best employment for females. Are you kidding me? We're roaring right now. Roaring. Even the blue-collar workers, 91% are proud of their work. 86% satisfied with their jobs. 85% say their lives are headed in the right direction. 80% say their jobs provide a good living. And 74% see a good career path in their line of work. Contrast that to a few years ago.
Hey, didn't Trump just say that, everything is terrible?
Oh, everything is terrible.
On Labor Day?
Yeah, everything's terrible.
Head of the AFL-CIO?
Those crumbs they got.
Such politics. I mean, come on, give the guy a break.
Doesn't it make you crazy?
Isn't it the dues of those people that you just mentioned?
Yeah.
Isn't it their dues that's going to pay for this guy's lavish life? And he can't say, hey, wait a second, my membership is doing better now. Things are going well for my membership.
That's the point.
They're giving me this beautiful life. I should at least encourage the sort of policies that's making them have a better life.
So, Neil, here's the question. You just defined it. That's the point of contention. So Trump just says, oh, it's just miserable. And Pelosi says, oh, those are crumbs. And the others are, and the other craze, Elizabeth Warren, oh, my God, Pocahontas.
Shut him down.
You didn't build that. You didn't. Neil, remember you started your company and you'd pay everybody but yourself? You didn't do that. People are realizing they're doing better. How do you tell them they're not doing better when it comes to the vote?
Well, you tell them, if you're, if a partisan, that's what you tell them.
Of course. That's all they got.
You didn't mention, but this was in the headlines this week, American manufacturing growing at the fastest pace in 14 years.
Amazing.
Here's Boom Time says that 83% of execs say that business is better. 76% see more growth.
That's right. It's continuing.
Another headline, you couldn't find a job under Obama. You can't keep up with all the jobs under Trump. Wow. Something should be said about that. We got an incredible guest coming up. Kendall Coffey is former U.S. attorney. He's going to talk about the confirmation process of Justice Breet Kavanaugh. This is absolutely crazy stuff that's going on. He has a very, very unique and fascinating perspective. You don't want to miss this.
Made in America.
Sharply higher at the open, stocks continued to perform well over the course of the day Tuesday.
And I think that bodes well here over the next couple of years for having bigger demands coming to this country.
Now, more of Neil Asbury's Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Ruffman. Rich, we're a show all about creating jobs and the entrepreneurial spirit and economic freedom and all the wonderful things that happens in America when you let entrepreneurs and small businesses do their thing, the magic that happens. But we're gonna get involved in a discussion right now about the confirmation hearings of Breet Kavanaugh. He is absolutely being run through the ringer, at least by one side of the political spectrum in this country. And it's very emotional. It's very emotional. I understand it's very emotional. But, it's also very emotional back when President Obama made his picks for the Supreme Court. Very, very liberal picks. And they got a lot of Republican votes. And there wasn't all of this yelling and screaming from the gallery. It just seems to be very, very strange. Very strange. But we got an incredible guest coming on with us. someone who is very well known and well liked in Miami, great city of Miami, Kendall Coffey, the former U.S. attorney, has played a huge role in American the American legal system throughout his career, and even up until now, commentator on just about every cable news show. He's done a lot of writing. A professor at University of Miami. I mean, it's a lot of accomplishments. We're very pleased to have Kendall with us right now. Kendall, welcome to Made in America.
Well, thanks so much, Neal and Rich, for having me. Certainly an important and exciting day in the legal world, because it appears that it's getting close to the confirmation of Breet Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court, who, as we all know, would be an extremely, extremely important member of the court, and perhaps a fifth vote on many controversial cases.
So what do you think about, the theater that's going on? I mean, Senator Booker, all of that. It's just 2020. Are they getting a little bit ahead of themselves right now? And this didn't happen when President Obama made his selections.
Well, I think it's distressing. To have lots and lots of arrests with respect to a confirmation hearing of a Supreme Court justice is supposed to be at the highest imaginable level of dignity under our Constitution and our society. And I don't think it's helping the Democrats for purposes of the midterm elections. I don't even know if it's helping anybody's presidential candidate. And I certainly hope a talented senator like Cory Booker isn't thrown off. I don't think he's going to be, especially because there's now a question as to whether the documents he was releasing were, prohibited.
They were confidential.
With it. Yeah.
But the irony of the whole thing was those documents were already approved to be released. So it really is. It's such a kabuki theater, Kendall, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I was been reading the documents. I don't know how many people have tried to read them closely, but it's not exactly like a smoking gun to condemn Breet Kavanaugh. In fact, I'll just highlight from his email in January 2002, which, as we all know, it's a very difficult time for this country. It was on the heels of 9/11, and all of us were very concerned about security and the balance between protecting the Constitution and assuring the safety of the American people. But as I read his email, he's saying that he favors effective security measures that are race neutral. So where is the grievance in that? And I tried to read through most of his emails. There's absolutely nothing that's disqualifying. It's thoughtful. I think an awful lot of people would agree with his comments, but mostly they're just trying to come to understand legal issues that are very, very difficult in the wake of 9/11.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on reading the document. There's probably a lot more documents that were read by you than some of the senators that I've been watching for the last few. I find it astounding. 400. The other day it was 475,000 documents. They released another 42,000 or 45,000 that day.
More than the last five.
More than all the Supreme Court
justices
justices that were vetted for the last X number of years.
Exactly.
And the one thing what I find interesting, Kendall, is that I'm listening to Mr. Kavanaugh, and he's a brilliant jurist, just a brilliant man. And he really makes a point for the laity that, listen, you have to separate the emotion. I'm a constitutionalist. I deal in the interpretation and the understanding of law and precedent that relates to those laws. And I keep my personal opinions separate from that. That doesn't have any place. And I think that's a very remarkable, place to be, given what's going on in the theater surrounding him.
Very much so. I believe him when he says he has an open mind. He's conservative. He has an open mind. I'm not sure if anyone else in the room has an open mind. And his comments.
There's the statement, right? There's your takeaway statement.
Well, but, I'm watching this, and his comments and the exchanges and his substance is very similar to Chief Justice John Roberts, because he's, I think, a very similar kind of jurist in his past career. And Roberts was confirmed, I think, with over 70 votes. But I don't think that's possible today. I'm very concerned that it's going to end up being a very divided vote, that there's going to be some sense out of all this that this is all a very, that he's going to be functioning as a Republican, and that's just not the case. He is a brilliant jurist, and I think he's shown over his career that he tries to study the law and get it right time after time after time. And he's got a long paper trail, but when somebody's written over 300 judicial opinions, I think that's the most important part of the paper trail.
So, I don't see anything cracking in the Republican ranks right now. They seem to be holding. And, based on that, I mean, it's all over, right? I mean, there's no way not to confirm him. Do you see Collins breaking away? I mean, is it well, and even if she did, it wouldn't sink him. And so it looks like he's going to be our next Supreme Court justice.
Well, I think that's the growing inevitability. And by the way, I don't think anybody knows for sure how he's going to vote on Roe versus Wade whenever that comes back to the court, nor do I think he's supposed to decide that. He clearly has a huge sense of the value of judicial precedent.
Hey, Kendall, thanks for being on the show. An excellent voice on this topic. Kendall Coffey, former U.S. attorney and incredible legal mind and legal expert. You can see him all over the place. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for including me.
Coming up, we have Ed Yardeni, president of Yardeni Research. And we're going to talk about, well, he's actually saying trade wars can actually boost U.S. jobs. So let's find out what this is all about.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Ruffin. Well, last week we talked a lot about trade wars, and so we're already deep into the show, and now we're going to talk about trade wars and the trade war that is raging around us. And our next guest, Ed Yardeni, who is president of Yardeni Research, has just wrote a piece. It was published in Market Watch, The Surprising Reasons Why Trump's Trade Wars Will Boost U.S. Jobs and Stocks. A little bit of being a bit counterintuitive there. The conventional wisdom is that trade wars somehow destroy wealth or destroy jobs. But Ed says that's not necessarily true. Well, Ed is joining us right now. Welcome to Made in America.
Thank you very much.
So, here at Made in America, we're all about job creation and bringing jobs back to America and inspiring our entrepreneurial class and getting everybody working here and working together. And, I got to tell you, global supply chains, I mean, they are a reality. And
Absolutely.
50% of what we buy from China are components and parts that goes into our manufacturing. Right. And the tariffs right now aren't distinguishing between what we're importing to help our manufacturers and finished goods. Right. I got to tell you, as an American manufacturer, I'm going to be hurt. But you're saying that trade wars will boost U.S. jobs. So tell us, what's your thoughts there?
You have to work with me here. You don't need me to tell you that we have a very controversial president. Every single day we get controversy. Some people think that he's mad. Whatever you think of him, there's definitely method in the madness. And, if you just look over the past year or so, at the end of last year, he stimulated the economy with enormous tax cuts. And then within a month, he went on to escalate this trade war. So the way I'm seeing it is Trump means it or believes that trade wars can be won, and believes that they can be won to our advantage, making fairer trade. And what he did is he stimulated the economy, which then, of course, is creating jobs. And that strength is giving him strength in negotiating with our trading partners. So this trade war is really right now more like trade skirmishes. And we seem to be seeing some success with Mexico. He's declared a ceasefire for now with Europe. We're waiting to see what happens with Canada, and that will only leave really China as the issue. So I don't see this as being Smoot-Hawley, the Great Depression. I see this more like Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan also blew the whistle on unfair trade practices and got them to be fair.
See, the way I see it is that I don't think Trump is starting a trade war. I think the trade war has been going on for decades with
True.
China. I
agree
think
with
what he's trying to do is stop the trade war,
Exactly.
and as you just said very aptly, and get fair trade as opposed.
Right.
There is no free trade, but it's fair trade.
Right.
So everyone gets a fair deal. I agree with you. I think there's a method to the madness. I think he's smart as a whip. I think he knows what he's doing. Yes, he's mercurial. He shoots from the hip. You know what? But that's what the American people wanted. They knew that about him. They were looking for somebody like that.
Yeah, look, there's something very instinctive about him. This is not somebody who's read a lot or studied a lot of history. He just has a worldview, and you either like it or you hate it. And the worldview is that we don't want to be tied in with global government organizations like the World Trade Organization and others that tell us what to do, especially if it leads to unfair trade practices. So, I think if you kind of tune out the tweets and just focus on the signal rather than the noise, economy is doing well. We're making some progress in this so-called trade war, and he can just as quickly de-escalate this war as he's been escalating it.
So you say Trump's trade wars will boost U.S. jobs. So how does this boost U.S. jobs?
Well, to be honest, I didn't write the headline.
It's a good headline, though. It's
Wait
a good headline.
Well, we could say some people say. There's your prefatory. Some people say.
I'm being honest with you. I mean,
that's cool.
Headlines
we like to be honest
by
here.
editors, and they bring you into the content, and the content is consistent with that. Again, the idea is that Trump stimulated the economy, America first, a lot of strength. We're seeing employment is strong. We're seeing GDP is strong. And that, in turn, allows him to turn around to our trading partners and say, you're not that strong. You're not that big. If you want to do business with us, you better start towing the line in terms of, our interests.
But here's something I'd like you to consider. I mean, President Trump is, saying, hey, look, we're going to go and hit another $200 billion in Chinese products. And then after that, another $200 billion. And China said, hey, we're going to hit $60 billion. But, I'm in China a lot. I have manufacturing facilities there that I own. I have much more in the United States that I own. So I know the country very well. Been doing business there for many, many years. Are the tariffs that China is going to put on our product going to China, it's not going to hurt the Chinese consumer. The Chinese consumer won't even know. I mean, maybe, the cost of food will go up a hair, but the Chinese government will just subsidize that. And by the way, they're depreciating their currency, anyway, in order to offset the tariffs. And they're doing that to kind of get out of this. But no, I'm sorry, Ed, we're out of time, but I really enjoyed our discussion, and we'll have to get you back again real soon, because this conversation is going to continue to go on over the next several months. You're a really great voice. Ed Yardeni, and he is the president of Yardeni Research. Thanks for coming on the show, Ed.
Thank you.
Coming up, Dr. Rothman and I are going to have some final thoughts for the day.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, another passionate show. Another passionate show. Hey, look, man, you were really on a roll today, and I loved it.
Well, you watch what's going on, and we have a lot of people listening to us. We've been doing this for many years now. We're all over the place, particularly with the Armed Force Radio, all over the world with that. And people see what's happening. When you see a Senate hearing degenerate into screaming and yelling, and now they're saying they were making $50 per person. That's what came out, the other day.
Oh, the people who
and
were
it's
in the
Antifa.
galleries?
Yeah, they're making money. They have witnesses showing that they were making money for this. I mean, this is just outrageous. This is pathetic. We're talking about a Supreme Court decision. This is the highest court in the land. This is the court that's charged with absolutely. This is the final wall, so to speak.
The final arbitrator.
The arbitrator in protecting the Constitution, and we're screaming horrible things at this man. And the truth of the matter is, when you listen to other people like Kendall Coffey and others, across the board with a brain who really can put aside the emotionality. He's a wonderful jurist. He's a terrific man. He's a great American, and he's a patriot because he fights for the Constitution. His 309, written responses in court are brilliant, and they completely define a man who understands where the country has been, where it needs to go, all based upon what our forefathers wrote and imagined what this country could be, because it works. And it's a very important document to protect. He's a great guy. So when you see that, Neal, and others are out there listening, it upsets you. Your blood pressure goes up. You're saying, how can this be in the United States? This isn't what we do. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to be divided. A house divided amongst itself is going to fail. We are, as Lincoln said, we're going to be all one. We are Americans. A homogeneity of what America is the strength of America. It is not a parochial environment. It's a unified environment. That's why we were the never-fail environment. It just astounds me that we're going down that road. And I don't know how optimistic I can be. I guess I want to be optimistic because I'm an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs generally are optimistic, and you try to create things in the future. But we really got to get it together.
Yeah, what scares me is I just don't see the path for that to happen.
Neither do I.
Whatever I do as an entrepreneur, you create a path. You create a path. Now, that path may be a difficult path, but you have a path, and you have a line of sight, and you say, I can get there. Now, I'm going to have to go over so many obstacles. It's a very daunting challenge in front of me. There's going to be walls. There's going to be things I'm going to have to climb over. I'm going to have to bust through. I'm going to have to.
It's hard. It's hard doing entrepreneurism.
But how do you look at today's environment and say, hey, look, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. I mean, look, in 2020, we're going to have another presidential election. I mean, what is the choices going to be right now on the Democrat side? I mean, can they have a unifying figure on the Democrat side, or will it be someone like so far off to the left that whoever gets elected, we're just perpetuating this sort of cycle that we're in. It was bad under Bush. I thought it couldn't get worse. Then it was even worse under Obama, and now it's even gotten worse again under Trump. I mean, where does it end to where we can come all together to be this land that President Lincoln envisioned, that we're all one?
I know, and it concerns me when I see these progressive socialists winning in the primaries. And we're in the state of Florida, and now we have Gilliam out of Tallahassee going up against DeSantis. Gilliam, under investigation with the FBI for taking funds out of election monies and taking trips with his family or his wife. Not good. Highest crime, one of the highest crime cities in the state is Tallahassee. He's the mayor. He wants a 40% raise in the corporate tax in Florida. My God, Florida's booming. What person would vote for somebody who wants to take away the rationale for people to come to the state of Florida? That's job creation. It's revenue creation. It works. And if we go with someone like that, it eliminates that. It really puts us non-competitive. We're just not competitive to the other states. We'd be the highest, most expensive state in the Southeast. That's outrageous, Neal.
Yeah, and especially
Florida. That's crazy talk.
And Florida's always considered right there with Texas as the most business-friendly states.
And has been so for a long time.
That's where you want to be if you're an entrepreneur. And don't lose that. But that's just an example. That's one example. But, there's a lot of examples of that. And I'm afraid that the Democrats will have, coming out of the primary system, a presidential candidate that mirrors that, right? It mirrors that.
No question. They're going to go that route.
Rich, we're out of time.
I hate that. Those are the words I don't like. We're out of time, and there's no milkshake.
But you were on a roll today. So hold that passion, because we're going to be back again next week for another adventure of Made in America, where we never stop fighting for your jobs.